So we are doing Alec Hawkins and I, part-time editor, full-time, go-to random person I pull up on the show when we need to do something that's not guest oriented, right? So appreciate you doing this with me. But Alec and I are going to go over our album slash EPs of the year. We were going to do a two list thing, and then same thing as you. When I went through mine, I think I ended up adding one EP to my whole list. So that was a good call to not do two different two different ones on that. Sure. Would have been a little bit of a struggle bus there, but we're gonna go through the EP and albums releases, I guess, of the year for both of us, and then maybe just talk about some different bands or whatever else that we've kind of found this year, whether or not it was a release from 2023. But of course, Alec had a great idea for anybody that's watching this on Spotify or YouTube. If not, you'll just have to use your imagination. But we're going to pretend this is brought to you by Rumple Minze, where each time, I think this is, I didn't talk to you about this explicitly. Yeah. Before we, I get talked to like I'm a crazy person for liking this as much as I do, but it's fine. It works out well. But
we both do.
I figure like it doesn't have to match up. If I say 10, like my 10th one is right. 10 and 10, but just if we have the same releases at all on here at any point when we go through, we'll have to take a shot. That's what we're gonna do. Does that sound like a plan?
No, that's the plan. If any of our top 10s fit with the top 10s, take a shot. Maybe even at the end, if we haven't taken enough, I'll take a shot at the end just for the
same
of it,
Because I have a feeling our lists might be pretty different, so we might be a little disappointed on the shots, but I
think our lists are going to be very different. As I was putting this together, I was thinking about obviously I'm putting together my top 10, but I was thinking like how many would you maybe have on there, and I'm thinking I'm going to over bet that we're going to take at max 3 shots.
I would say so too, because we didn't talk about this beforehand, but we did talk a little bit that you've said that not very many metal releases are likely going to be on yours. You had mentioned that. I don't know if that's true or not. We'll see as we go through. But mine is like, I'm pretty sure mine is like all but 2 are just like full-blown metal records. So, but I'll stop burying the lead here. Before we get started here, you wanna do one before we get going?
Cheers, buddy. Cheers. I got a halvesies here. Half shot to
nice.
It's the liver prep,
Yeah.
You're gonna go full steam. Yeah,
that's right.
I tried to cut the chance with my mind. One of the nights that down trying to get
a little early for this, huh?
Yeah, it is a little early for this, but that's fine. I'm here for it. We're gonna go, your 10, my 10, and we'll just kind of do it in that order, and then we can kind of talk a little bit about.
Do you want to go back and forth, like 10 to 10, 9 to 9 kind of thing?
Yeah. I figured we do it that way, kind of talk about the records a little bit as we go. As we get higher up, we can, mention why we like them so much and things of that nature, and just kind of go from there with a few of them. Because a few of them I put on my list, I should stop burying the lead here and just get fucking going with it. But some of them are like, they're lower on it because I think there's like 7 fantastic songs on a 10-song record. But like when you get to your number 1, it's like you better like every fucking song that's on there. You know what I mean? So and this year was tough because this year there was a lot of good releases across the board. Like I said, like a lot of my, like there's so many pop and hip hop records I wanted to add on this that I just couldn't because there was too much good shit. So it was a tough year to do this, but I'll stop bearing the lead here. I'll have you go first and I'll go after you. So go ahead and start with your number 10 release of the year. What is it? Give it to me.
So my number 10 release of the year is Sleep Tokens, Take Him Back to Eden. And I almost didn't even have it on the list, to be honest. Because
I know you're not a huge Sleep Token guy, right?
No, I liked Sundowning a lot. And then after that, I just kind of felt like it was not more of the same, right? Like the production gets better, some of the elements get cooler, right? But I think the singles of this record are super solid. I don't think... this is why it's number 10, is I don't know if the record as a whole, to me, I feel like flows the way I want it to flow or is like my taste all the way through. But songs like The Summoning and Granite and Aqua Regina, basically every song he released prior to releasing the whole album. And like the title track and all the tracks are good in their own light, but the single tracks he
Right.
released, I thought were too good not to have this be on a top 10 album, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, agreed, I definitely agree. Like, I really like this record, which is probably giving one of mine away here as we go along. But I do agree that, like, I think it was, I do agree, like, Sundowning to me is their best record still. A lot of people feel like this newest one is because it got them, so massive over this past year. And that's great. And I think they deserve that. They put out 3 records in, like, 3.5 years, which is no easy feat. And I think they're all good. I think the second one was, like, it was almost a slump, but it was still a good record because they're that good of a band. But I would agree that, like, some of the songs on this record, I'd have to pull up the track list. No, I really like Chokehold. The Summoning is one of the best songs, I heard this year. I think that could be maybe single of the year. I think, like, it was
I agree.
that good.
And that's the hard thing is it's so strong that I'm like, it almost has to put the album up there too. You know what I mean? It's almost balancing the album
and like Rain, Rain was a really good song on this record. But like, there's a few on here, like what was it? Like, I don't remember what all the letters stand for, but the
Do You Wish That You Loved Me?
DYWTYLM, I forget what.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, that song was fine to me. I wouldn't, like, throw it on its own. Vor, which was one of the singles and, like, one of the heavier, more metalcore songs, I was like, they have better songs like this on other records. But, like, yeah, like, Take Me Back to Eden, Chokehold, Aqua Regia, all those different songs, like, they're all fantastic. It's just, again, one of the, like, perfect example of what I was just starting off with, where, like, 6-7 songs on a 12 record album that I would go back to over and over again. But some other ones, if they come up on a shuffle, I'm probably gonna skip them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I totally agree with that. My number 10 is, somebody that, from a band that you and I have both met the singer in person, hung out with them at the Silverstein show for a little bit. I got to go see them with Pulse's a few other bands, is Guardrail, their full length record Content or Content, kind of say it both ways.
Whichever you swing it.
Really, really, really good record off of Open Your Ears Records, for people that listen outside of the sort of AAC group that Alec and I are both a part of, pretty big in there. The editor or producer of one of the other podcasts that you and I both listen to. I think it's a really good record. It's, punk rock, pop punk. And I think the only reason why this is as low on my list compared to other things is, like, I've been just so into heavy music this entire year that I can't really put, like, a, punk rock, pop punk album much higher than 10. Like, the fact that it's on here shows that it's that good of a punk record for me. Just been really not into the genre lately for the most part. Like, I just have felt most things in it are super formulaic for the most part. I say that and I listen to metalcore all the time, but but I just think it's, like, a super good record top to bottom. I think it's their first full length, and it's, like, really, really impressive. They wrote with Nick from the Swellers for it, and I don't think there's, again, not a bad song on the record, but just, not my usual cup of tea when it comes to genres for the most part anymore. Do you know much about that record? Have you checked it out much? Yeah.
I saw them. They came through Grand Rapids, actually, and I took some pictures of them. I saw them, and I've listened to the record, I think, one time through, and that's the reason why I put it on a shout out on my shout outs list.
Yeah,
which is like, hey, the record was good. Like, I listened to it, right? But I think that I was unfortunately listening to stuff that was released like 2 years ago instead. Like, I was getting into that kind of stuff, which we'll get to later in this podcast. But yeah, and so they're definitely a shout out. I definitely liked it. I think it was a solid release, and what's going to happen, like most records like that, is I'll go back to it in 2024 or 2025, and I'll get really into it, and I'll go, oh, maybe this could have been, a 2023 top album, but I just didn't listen to it enough to solidify it there,
Absolutely. Yeah. Great record. Anybody that hasn't checked it out yet, Guardrail, Content or Content, from Open Your Ears Records, definitely worth checking out if you're into anything punk rock, pop punk related. All right, let's go. Your number 9.
So my number 9 is Poppy, the album Zig. So I think the reason why this is on my list too, and this is one of the albums this year that was in the background a ton while I was working or just doing some other task. And she's just, I never really liked Poppy that much when she first came out.
Yeah.
And the more releases she has, the more I'm like, oh, this girl can literally do anything. So Zig is more of a like electronica record, but she had some
Yeah.
weird like dark black metal pop, vibe for the previous releases. Songs like I think it's The Attic, and Linger. Or it wasn't The Attic, I'm sorry. Is it The Attic? Yeah, The Attic. The Attic and Linger are
The
probably
Attic's
two
on
like
there.
top songs on there. Yeah. Just an overall structurally a sound album. And I can't say like I dedicated like an in-depth, I'm not listening to this like every person listened to Pimp a Butterfly when it came out, right? And they're like, oh, let me dissect the whole record and whatever.
Yeah.
But I've had it in the background a lot. I'll probably give it more in depth, but it's hitting number 9 because I hear anything that I didn't like out of it.
Yeah, Poppy's. I'll have to check this record. I'd actually, this is where I get into the weeds so much of like heavy music that I miss out on some releases because I've always thought she was a really good pop artist, electronic artist that again has done random songs that go into like you said, really heavy territory, or at least influenced by really heavy territory. But I did hear, was it? I forget which single it was when it first came. I just thought it was a off single like so many pop artists do, but just a really interesting pop artist that really does kind of the genre blending attitude of like doing whatever the hell you want and does really well with it for the most part. So I'm actually going to make sure to put this down that I check this out because I wasn't even aware that she put out a full length record this year. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say too. Like
this is where. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like in comparison to like the number 10, like Sleep Token pick, I feel like Sleep Token's a band that I go, if I hear him do another ballad song, I might skip it. Like it's just because I know I'm expecting that to happen. And Poppy is just a little bit more left field, where she's gonna put some weird element in it, and it could be very genre bending, which is, I think, why I place that on my list.
Yeah. Yeah, which is really cool because again, I've liked to see that. I was somebody for a while for like especially the mid 2000s, late 2000, or like mid 2010s, where I was really like kind of jaded against a lot of pop artists because I just kind of felt like it all used the same beat, used the same production. A lot of times they went to the same producers or they had 5 people writing the songs, kind of deal. Yeah. Same key, same chord progressions, whatever. And then you kind of have this era of Poppy and, other artists. I would say like Halsey is in there to a different extent too, where like they'll just kind of do whatever they want and really go artsy with it. Kind of how pop music used to be back in the day when like it was really like an artist driven vision. And, not to say they don't use co-writers or a heavy-handed producer or something, but it's just cool to see pop music that's like really interesting. Not that didn't exist before,
I definitely got into more pop, I think, this year too. And that's not going to really reflect too much on my list, but you mentioned Halsey and Carly Rae Jepsen. For some reason, I got really super into their back catalog this year, where I kind of ignored them for a long time. And there's some really, really, I'm like, okay, I get why you're popular. Like, I get why you're good. I'm with the in crowd now. I understand,
Well, because it's just like as you get out here a little, like, especially people like us that like played in metal bands and grew up in like a scene to some extent, like when you get out of the sort of like elitist bubble of your early 20s of like, I'm only going to listen to things like from, that would be on Warped Tour at the time.
If that song doesn't have a sick breakdown, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
If I can skip to a minute and a half into the song, and there isn't something heavy written, no. Yeah.
There's not a tom build up to a one-liner before a bunch of open notes. Yeah, I'm not for it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's cool that that's on, and again that's gonna be something I check out today when I'm after this recording. So that's awesome. My number 9. So we're gonna have to get out the old Rumple Minze here is Sleep Token. Take Me Back to Eden. Again, cheers.
I think we're gonna take more than 3.
Let's go ahead and do it.
Cheers.
Yep.
Better and better every time.
Yeah, we already talked about it a bunch, but like the one thing I will say, because I thought about it because this morning when I was exercising, I watched the first video interview that Sleep Token's done. Their drummer did it with Drumeo, where he talked about his influences and all that. And it brought me back to like, this one was tough for me to put it this low because I like specifically the drums so much on this record. Like if we were judging like favorite drummers, this one would like the drummer 2 from Sleep Token would probably be my number 1 this year. I don't think it's like, I think 9 is a solid place for the overall record, but just like my love for it is because the drums are so ridiculously good and interesting. And yet like he goes over the top with it on certain parts, like so over the top, but it like adds to the songs that maybe it wouldn't in a different band.
It's
but
not
yet,
trying to like, take
there's
away
those
from
lighter
it,
songs
right?
where he does just, yeah, right. Where there's those kind of other songs where he's just more in the groove and in the pocket, right? So that's why that record's on here pretty much, is because I love the drums so much. That's the only additional thing I'll add to that. We already talked about Sleep Token enough. We'll move on. All right, getting in here, we've got number 8. Show me what you got for number 8.
Number 8, I'm going with No Home, Hell Is All Around Us. Don't know if you know the band No Home.
No, I'm not familiar.
My joke for this is that Counterparts didn't release an album this year, so No Home is
Okay.
going to be on the album of the year. I'm a huge Counterparts fan. I've been since Prophets, so like long term, I'd say top 10 band for me. This record, Hell Is All Around Us, is like, it takes old Counterparts and new Counterparts, and there are literally riffs where you're like, I feel like we both have listened to that Counterparts record before. Like it's not reinventing the wheel. It's not anything that's fucking next level crazy. But when I listen to it, I get this like nostalgia kick of listening to Prophets from Counterparts, and then listening to other albums that they had. They put their own tiny spin on it.
Yeah, I see it just from like like their the first like album review they got done with it when the record came out, that that references the 2 biggest influences for them were Counterparts and Being as an Ocean. So yeah, I got to check this band out. This is why I like doing stuff like this. Is like I do a podcast where I talk to smaller bands and I find out about new music all the time, and then I miss out on some like pretty decent sized up and coming band that I have never heard of. So sweet, number 2 of your list that I'm gonna check out right after we do this recording.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, pure nostalgia value, but with a fresh take. And I do tell everybody to check them out. It's a great record.
Well, and that's another thing that I really have been trying to like remember when I'm checking out bands of like the kind of melodic hardcore or metalcore, post-hardcore genre now, is like, you don't need everything to be like some new twist, some new modern twist people are trying to do with music. Sometimes it's okay, like we were just kind of jokingly talking about, to have like the emotional music with some breakdowns and some ones and zeros and dissonance, and that's totally fine, and I'm all for it. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel or break the wheel of a genre for a record to be fantastic, right? So
yeah.
My one here, I wonder if you have heard of this band. They're a UK band, but they have members, I think, from New Zealand and a couple of other countries. It's a 3 or 4 piece. They bring out like these synths and also play like heavy music, and they have these concept records that have been coming out recently that are awesome. The band's called Calva Louise. This band, I found out about them. I'm not someone that finds out about bands through social media very often. But like they randomly popped up on some like Instagram reel or something. This happened to me like twice this year, and this is one of the bands. But they have this song called Opportunista that is like this weird blend. It's a female vocalist. I'm assuming I shouldn't say I know somebody's gender offhand, but I believe a female vocalist that she like does all these different, like super versatile. She also plays guitar and synth at the same time. Everyone in the band is very involved with like multi-instrumentation, and do everything from like kind of breakdowny, shouty, screaming music to indie rock to very electronic, like synth pop, dance beat songs. And their records and their music videos are all like this intense concept that I would butcher trying to explain. But it's super involved. Like it's like one of the most involved bands I've seen, from like songwriting to they've made like an Unreal Engine themselves that like makes these things with their music videos, and like this development on like this whole world building thing. And they're starting to blow up in Europe and the UK. But if I remember right, so their description on their Spotify is like they have like animated scenes in the videos. They use softwares with like an Unreal Engine, linking lyrics to their songs to the story of the videos. They have band members from Venezuela, France, and New Zealand, even though it's a British band. And like, you know, they're just like this super weird, like weirdest band I've probably found out about without it being like a noise rock, like avant-garde weird shit. But like, you know, I guess what I'm talking about them is very avant-garde, but like also each individual song is like, just if you knew none of that, it's also just really entertaining and really good. So the only reason why this is as low as it is on my list is probably one of the most interesting bands I found out about this year. But it's just that like I haven't dove enough into the band yet. Like I'm not immersed in like the confusing things I just talked about that is their music. I just like every song is super good. The videos are really like out there in like this other world thing. And I usually don't even like music videos, but for the most part, but it's definitely worth checking out. So I'll stop there.
I think there's something to say.
Super,
I think there's something to say about
band.
that too. That like a band that can be so versatile, that can give you so many different genres. Like I feel like I like music for two different reasons, and there's either it's versatile and it surprises me, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool, or it's like exactly what I'm looking for, and I go, yeah, this is what I expect from this band to do. And you know, there's like rarely a time that it kind of meets in the middle. So
that's my number 8. Let's go ahead and move on to your number 7. What's your number 7?
Yeah, my number 7 is Ruckus. By Movements, Ruckus.
Yes.
A very good. I feel like and you said this before. You said this at the beginning of the episode, but I feel like everything I'm gonna say about my first like 5 or 6 is gonna be like generally the same. Where I'm like, oh, this is a really good record to me. And again, like when I think of my top 10, I'm thinking of not only what I listen to the most, but like how did this band live up to the other albums they had?
Right.
How does it fit into their discography? And I feel like Ruckus was a good blend of like, hey, we can get on the radio tomorrow, but then also a like, hey, you know, that kind of slightly angsty, like I think of like Dance with Death is my top song off the record. Lead Pipe was a great single from them. It has that like kind of angsty Movements vibe to it.
Yeah.
They're definitely a band that just kind of fulfills that alternative vibe for me. But they come out with some surprises here and there.
Yeah, they're a band. I kind of, you know, they don't. These two bands I'm about to say don't sound the same, so nobody get mad at me about this. But Movements and He Is Legend are both bands that I think about that are like kind of put into this like alternate. Movements is obviously I think massively bigger than He Is Legend, but like both bands fit in this space that they could, and I think there's been a little more success with this with Movements, but they could like be on like these big rock tours, right? Like these massive like arena rock tours. For whatever reason, they kind of get lumped in a little more with sort of like the scene alternative, you know, more underground spaces. And yet like when you listen to the record, you'd be like, oh, they could tour with like this band that plays in, you know, 40K, you know, cap venues and all these kinds of things. And Ruckus was one that I, to be honest, like maybe if I thought about it, it'd be on my lower tier and I'd boot one of the lower ones out. I kind of forgot this came out this year.
I had to add it to my list later because I was going through all these records I listened to and I was like, oh, I forgot that came out this year. That deserves some sort of shout out for sure.
I tried to go through a list from Loudwire of like all the hard rock and metal albums that came out this year, and I don't know what's going on with Loudwire. I'll blame them if I miss another band that you name. But like the article kept crashing no matter what device I went on because there was so many ads on it. So I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna go off my brain instead. It's fine. But yeah, great record. The only thing that I have a doc on this record, and I think you know where I'm gonna go with this, is the goddamn album art is atrocious.
You know,
it's like I don't know if they're in on the meme on it almost, you know what I mean? But it's so bad. But I'm talking about it, so I guess it works.
Right.
You know I mean?
And a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people say, oh, this album art looks so bad. But I feel like the weird like cyber 80s font, I think like Beartooth is kind of utilizing that shit too, right? Like it's
but I would shit on Beartooth's albums as well.
Yeah, it's fair.
You know, the album art.
Yeah, it's like I mean, honestly, like I think about like Riptide single art for Beartooth, and then this album art are kind of like in the same yeah
Yeah,
in the
yeah, you
same
got a
vein,
point.
right? But
Yeah, yeah,
it's almost so kitschy that you'll remember it, right?
yeah.
And there's
And you
not a
know
lot
what?
going
It
on.
doesn't ruin the album. Yeah, yeah.
No,
There's yeah,
no.
yeah.
Like half the time
Um,
this album is going on in my car when I'm commuting, right? It's not like I'm not looking at the album
yeah.
art and dissecting it. Um,
I
yeah,
guess
I don't know.
that's an interesting point to have, though, that things are so obviously digital that the only people that are going to buy the record anyway. Not to say that album art isn't important. I love good album art. I think it's like a huge medium for artists still now, for vinyl collectors, and even what you see on Spotify and all that kind of stuff. But like, it's not going to make or break if someone picks up the record the way it maybe would have when you were at FYE, 15 years ago, to like look around for music where you'd see it and be like, that looks lame, whatever, I'm going to move on. So yeah, I mean, it's not a make or break. It's like the only doc I have on this album. Great album, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, that band never really disappoints. Not a band that ever has put out a dud. So it makes a lot of sense. My next one, again, like I said, this one's a metal heavy record. I've already gotten through like the 2 out of the 3 straight up metal non-metal records on my list. So the rest of them are pretty heavy. But it's Silosis, A Sign of Things to Come. I don't know if you are a big Silosis fan.
I haven't. Who else? Who else did he do? What else does he do? What else is his other project that's like this bigger?
Well, he used to be, up until recently, he used to be in Architects.
Oh yeah, that's
Josh
okay.
Middleton.
That's right. That's right.
And this record, though, like, he's always, and this is what's really cool, is this is the I think the first time he did the production and mixing. I don't know if he did the mixing on their very first record, but this record he did he writes all the songs. He has the band, the band give a little bit of input and all that, but for the most part he writes everything. He produced it, and I believe he mixed it as well. So it's like an all in-house record, and it's the best record they've ever made. Like, it's not even close. Like, I got into, this is a band I got into this year. I mostly knew about Josh because of Architects. But actually, shout out to the Downbeat podcast. He's Craig Reynolds from Straight from the Path is really good friends with Josh Middleton. And so he would bring him up all the time on the podcast and brought up this band. And I was like, yes, I'll check it out. And I kind of like it more than Architects. So
fair.
So I was really stoked about it. And it's just, it's a record that if you're into just like heavy, fun, like heavier side of metalcore, I would say, like, there's not, it's very much like more old school metalcore, just straight up metal, you could say, of the early 2000s, but like with obviously modern production and more modern songwriting, and being a guy that's been doing this for decades. But just, yeah, if you're into metal, especially, like, I think about like the music that you're now sort of I don't mean to bring this up, but you're now sort of former band, Whole Heart. Like, if you're into that kind of music, you would love this record. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've not checked it out, definitely check it out.
No, I'm putting that on my I already put that on my list of things to check out after this pod wraps up, for sure. I'm gonna have a whole playlist by the end of this.
Yeah, I think we each are. Yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty much that one. Check it out. Josh Middleton's awesome. One of my favorite songwriters. Go to your number 6.
Number 6, and I think this is the last record I have like minimal to say on, but I still have it in my top. So everything else is gonna get a little more long-winded, but it's Currents, The Death We Seek.
I fucking forgot that came out this year. That might have been on mine. That's all right. I'm gonna stick with mine.
Brother.
Yeah,
you're telling me. It wasn't an album that I returned to too much, but it was a record that when I gave it my listens through for like when it initially came out, and I've had it on in the background a couple other times, but like the place I feel safest, I think, has to be my top 20 metalcore releases maybe of all time. And phenomenal record. I don't think they're ever, for me, gonna like really hit that peak ever again, but this record became way closer than any other record they put out since, which is, again, kind of a nostalgia value placement on my part. but like songs like Over and Over or Remember Me, right? Like they kind of hit that more melodic, emotional feel, but then it's also absolutely outrageously heavy throughout
Yeah.
throughout the record, right? So
Right.
that's where, and it's so hard to say like, hey, it's my number 6 of the year. I feel like 10 through 6 are so like, it's like being
Interchangeable.
like yeah, it's like the difference between, you know, being 10th at the 10th best quarterback or the fucking 5th best quarterback, you know, in the NFL. Like
Yeah.
they're all
Like,
very, very
it's
close.
all fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this Currents record, and Currents was a band that I didn't get into until I saw them. I think it was them. I forget what the opening band was, but it was an opening band, Gray. Was it Gray Scale? I don't remember.
Probably
There's
Grayscale.
one that's great. Yeah.
Grey Haven.
Yeah,
There's Grey Haven too,
it
I
was
think,
that.
right?
Yeah, I confuse those bands even though they sound nothing alike.
No, right.
But
right,
it was and then Currents, Invent Animate, and Silent Planet all together at a show. It was the last show I saw
remember
before
that
the
tour,
pandemic
but
hit.
I never saw it, and I was really bummed. I don't know if the pandemic hit
And it was
prior to or not, but I just didn't see it.
Yeah, because I saw them in February of 2020, so it was like right up there.
Right
you
there,
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was one of the best metalcore shows I've ever been to. And even though the sound quality was garbage, but that's kind of the charm, I guess, right? But I remember seeing Currents and just like they blew me away. And then I listened to their records, and it was as if they like went on stage and performed as tight as they were on the record, which is just really cool for a genre that like a lot of production comes into play with the records. There's a lot of magic that happens if you're working with like a Dan Braunstein or a Will Putney or whoever else. Not shitting on those people. I love those producers, but you get what I mean. There's usually a disconnect with metalcore a lot of the times between the live and the studio magic. Not the case with this band and this record. Like you said, I don't think it like broke the wheel of this band, or it was a phenomenally better record than whatever else they've put out, but it held up because this band's sick and they're not going to disappoint. So yeah, great pick. Again, I kind of forgot that came out this year, but my list is really solid. It might have been like a 12 or 13 anyways, but great pick. My number 6 is I'm going to make sure I'm not wrong on this. Yeah, the only EP I have on this list. It is a 3-song EP, and it is God Smiles Upon the Callous Cowboys from the Callous Cowboys.
I did not give it a listen this year, but I firmly want to go through the discography.
You have to check it out.
Yeah.
3 songs. It's only 3 songs. But the reason why it's number 6 is because those 3 songs might be in my top 20 songs, like each one individually, like released this year.
Oh shit!
And the music videos also. Again, I keep talking about music videos in a positive light, despite me always saying I shit on music videos. So maybe I need to do some reflection on that.
Yeah.
But I hate them. Yeah. But each song, is Pushing the Pink Envelope, Waco Jesus, and Designer Shroud of Turin. And so I actually had, Dan Hodgson on the podcast, and we talked a bit about these songs and all that kind of stuff. That's not why this is on my list, but the Waco Jesus song that they first released is kind of like their most like sort of conventional song they've ever put out. Cause if you know Callous Cowboys, pretty out there band a lot of times, like mixing mathcore and new metal and metalcore. But Waco Jesus is sort of the first song that it really was like, a song you could show somebody that's just into metal and they wouldn't be like, what the hell is going on in this song? But all 3 songs are fantastic. Designer Shroud of Turin, of course, features Pulses, which is one of my favorite bands. And just like, my only qualm with this and why it's so low on my list in a way is because it's only 3 songs. But at the same time, it's 3 songs and it's on my top 10 list, because it's that good. And it's the only EP, like I said, that's on mine. So not much more to say about that other than check it out.
Is it Waco or Wacko Jesus?
It's Waco.
What is Waco?
It's WACO.
Yeah,
Do you not know about like the Waco cult and all that?
No. That's why I was like,
you should look up
also
some
my
documentaries
list is a cult documentary.
On Waco.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because Carson, their vocalist who writes, I think, a majority of the lyrics, is very into conspiracy theories, and also like designer Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin is actually what was supposedly the shroud that was put on Jesus when he was after he was crucified and put in the tomb. And so there's like a lot of like religious and conspiratorial elements to their lyrics, and they're always kind of tongue-in-cheek and kind of goofy at the same time, but also serious. Their whole album, I think it's called Celebrity Therapist, like it's all about conspiracy theories, and like not just like shitting on them, they do that and they kind of make fun of them, but also like very embedded into conspiracy theories. So it's definitely like there's a lot of deep dives into it that are very interesting. Very unique band, very cool release. Just wish it was an album, or at least like 5 or 6 songs or something.
I think that band. I'm really quick as we're gonna cut all this audio of me taking off my jacket. It's getting
no, you're good.
It's getting hot. The Rumple's fucking hitting, dude. So that band, I absolutely love their social presence for that whole video of them starting that mosh pit, if you have health insurance, fucking prove it. If you have a college degree, put it in the shredder, get fucking stupid. I love that energy they bring. And they are definitely a band that I haven't given a lot of like stream listens to, but if they came on a tour, I would 1,000% see the tour. It just seems like it'd be such a good crowd pleaser.
Definitely. And if you're, like you and I that play guitar, like if you want to hear just like the craziest, dumbest, most like all over the place riffs, you check out this band because it's absolutely absurd what they do, like instrument wise as well. So, great EP. Let's go ahead and get in the top 5 here.
Top 5 territory.
What is your number 5 release of the year?
Top 5. Number 5 release is Left to Suffer's Feral.
Good pick.
And it wasn't in there until literally 2 weeks ago.
When you saw him?
I saw him live. Which, by the way, this is also, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to 2 bands that released something this year that I haven't listened to their album at all, but they were also on that tour. Chambers, I Love to Kill For. And then we have Mouth Breather, and I can't remember their EP name, but those 2 bands, that whole tour ripped. Whole tour ripped, and it was like the first like heavy, like super heavy show I went to in a while, and I was like, oh, I forgot like why I love this so much, and all those bands kind of like revealed to me why I like this music so much, and it just was a wild tour. Good concert. But Left to Suffer's Feral is like how I felt about like Emir when I was like 16, right? Is how I feel about that album now, like the Feral now. Where it's like, oh man, it's all killer, no filler. It's everything I want and just a heavy, like punch people in the face kind of record. I don't think like lyrically
the caveman riffs.
Caveman riffs, a bunch of ones and zeros, a bunch of like distorted notes and creepy melodies under like just rapid pace breakdowns. The vocalist is just insane, makes a bunch of fucking animal noises, like and I love it, and I love every second of it. Lyrically probably not like top tier, like oh this album speaks to me, right? But it definitely speaks to like that part of me that just wants just off with their heads kind of record.
100%. Yeah, I mean, again, Left to Suffer, I think you put it well. If you're just looking for some knuckle-dragging breakdowns and just some brutal fun, you cannot go wrong with them, and their latest record, speaks to that. Nothing else to say.
Like,
right?
if I wasn't in this small man body and I was in like a Sam Sulek body or something, I'd be bench pressing like 500 pounds to that album, So
right. Yeah. It's them and like Kubla Khan and bands like that are just like that's what you listen to them for. I'm a big guy into like diving into lyrics. You don't need to dive not shitting on their lyrics, but you don't have to dive into their lyrics. You just gotta listen to the record and get angry. It's perfect for that. My number 5 is, and I almost put this higher, but there's just so many good releases, is Dying Wishes Symptoms of Survival. Escape Fragments of a Bitter Memory was a great record. Very like throwback Kill Switch Engage sounding. record that sounded really good production wise, all that good stuff. I liked it. I liked the band, in general, but wasn't like head over heels for the music. This record, Symptoms of Survival, is like one of the best metalcore records I've heard in quite a while. And like, their singer, Emma, really shined on it. Like she really like brought out bigger, singing pipes and more versatile screaming, while also them just having some like 2-minute long, just brutal heavy songs that were just like, oh yeah, this band can go all over the place. And I just think it was just like one of the best put together records. I liked, one thing I really liked about the record specifically from like a songwriting and arrangement standpoint is how much like each song kind of blends into each other with these sort of sounds and soundscapes and, like feedback guitar and all that kind of stuff that sometimes gets lost in streaming now. And it was like, it was just, I think as far as like straightforward heavy music, not a whole lot of sampling, not a whole lot of electronic elements or anything like that. More of like a raw hardcore metalcore record, like one of the best I've heard in years. So
yeah,
just
I
blew me
definitely
away.
didn't listen to it probably as much as you did. I gave it a once over. It'll be a record I come back to in 2024, definitely. But I remember completing the record and going like, that is an album that can stand the test of time in like 2023 standards of production, but also feels incredibly raw. Like again, like you said, there's not like a shitload going on, right? It is like, this is the band, this is what the live sound is essentially going to be like, right? And it's just going to punch you in the face the whole time through.
Yeah, it's
solid.
And it's one of those things too that like you can see them for how much growth they've gotten over the last, like, I would say since this album really came out, and they got a lot more eyes on them. Like you'll still see them kind of doing those hardcore shows where like the stage is on the floor or it's on like pallets, or whatever, and just like people scream their heads off. Still like has that like, while it's, you'd put it in metalcore because there's a little more structure than like a typical hardcore band. It is like the real metalcore of like mixing metal and hardcore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where that word's kind of so expansive now, you don't even really know what it means.
Right. Like what is that?
But yeah, just super, super good record. All right, you're when you're ready, you're number 4. Give it to me.
See, I'm already pouring a shot right now because I feel like there are 2 records I think we're matching up on. By the time this final,
I have a feeling ends. I know what they are as well.
Yeah. So my number 4 is Invent Animate's Heavener.
Great record.
Great record. I think it is another record that I think the singles really, really, really push that record for me. I think Shade of Stray is still my favorite song off of that record, hands down. It's catchy. It slams where it does, or even like Elysium. Elysium has that one riff. I don't know if you know the one riff I'm talking about, but there's that one riff in the song.
Yes, I do. I've listened to this record a million times. Yes.
Smashes you in the face. Like they have so many good moments. I don't think it's as good as Graveview. And I'm gonna be honest about that. I think that Graveview for me was like a better record. I think the production on Graveview is a little more controlled. I think somebody pointed out too when I was talking about this record earlier with somebody else that they're like the reverb on his voice sometimes makes what he's singing or screaming like it's almost inaudible, right? It's almost like it's another instrument to the band. But I love the ebbs and flows of how this record moves. I'm really bad at song names too. We're in the same business. False Meridian. The opener of the record is super good. Void
Absence
Surfacing.
Persistent. Yeah.
Absence Persistent. Like I can list off the songs. Go, oh, I like that song. I like that song. I like that song. Like every song I enjoy on the record. Hence why it's a top 5. A phenomenal band that I think is gonna just keep. Especially, I don't know if you listen to the title track they released later. Was that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I think they released a single that was called. I want to say it was called Heaven. Or
that is really interesting. That they put out the title track as an extra song, but bands are doing that shit now. It reminds me of like,
and it was super.
Of We Are Not Your Kind, but
right.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have to check it out. So, yeah, I'll have to check it out again. Like, I'm just gonna because this is where. Yep, get it ready. My number 4 is an album called Invent Animate, or a band called Invent Animate, and the album is Heavener.
And
So
we matched
I think,
exactly on number 4. Look at that.
yeah. So we're gonna go for it here. So yeah, we'll do this first. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this record, that's really funny. I did not think that was going to actually happen. I thought we would have like general albums. But the the interesting thing about this record, when I first heard it, I heard the hype. I obviously knew the band, like I had said before. Big fan of Graveyou. I bought that record at the show when I saw them with Silent Planet. I think I bought it, or maybe I bought it late. I don't remember. Time's a blur of that era. But I was super impressed by this band, just like I said, same with Currents. And when Heavener first came out, that kind of reverb on the guy's singing voice, it threw me off a little bit when I was told about the hype of this record. And I was like, I don't know, maybe like people are hyping this one up a little bit. Like maybe it's not my thing. But then I listened to it. It was a grower, and it quickly grew to, again, one of my favorite records of the year, obviously, number 4. And the reason why it's maybe higher than like an album like Dying Wishes album, even though I would say maybe on a different day you would ask me, and I've probably listened to the Dying Wish album more, but this one like scratches that part of my brain that some more like modern, what I would call Invent Animate and some other bands, like progressive metalcore. Just like, I don't know, there's something about the transitions they do, the tones and the guitar, like the kind of more polyrhythmic things that they throw in, that I don't know. It's just like what it does for me is it makes me want to write music. Like, and so that's why this one's where it's at for me, is like records like this make me want to go like, God damn, I got to go pick up my guitar again and start working on some riffs.
Have you ever watched a
playthrough
video of the guitarist playing some of the songs?
Yes, I have.
I mean, this isn't even like a slam. He's like a robot though. Like it looks like so easy for him that I'm like, you make the riff look so simple. And if I just stretch my hand like that, it would just be a bunch of noise.
Get carpal tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. My wrist would break immediately. I don't know.
Yeah. After this, same thing like I said earlier with the Dallas Cowboys one, Dan Hodgson, again, who was on the show before, they put out a few playthroughs of this latest EP that they put out, and first of all, Dan's guitar is absurdly cool looking, and second, I'll watch it in the same exact thought as like with the Invent Animate guitarist, where you're watching it and you're like, if I tried to do that, I think my pinky would break. Like, I just don't understand how you go from the first fret to like the 22nd in like 5 seconds.
Your hand looks like a contortionist right now.
Yeah, and they're just kind of grooving. That's like, dude, I used to think I was good at this, but that's why they're doing what they're doing, and
I try to admit that I'm not good at it, right? Like I'm good enough to pass, but people can run laps around me, and that's okay. Like I don't need to be the best.
I can do some zeros and ones, and I can write some songs. Yeah.
Exactly. I can do good rhythm,
But yeah,
good
perfect.
rhythm.
So we got a linked up one of Invent Animate Heavener. Great record. Let's go ahead and move on here to your number 3.
All right, so I'm actually, I almost want to pour another shot because I feel like we might even link up on number 3. Maybe we'll be one off. But my number 3 is Johnny Booth, Moments Elsewhere. Again,
fantastic record,
fucking fantastic record, solid band, and just like you kind of said with the Dying Wish record versus Invent Animate, I feel like I probably listened to the full record of Johnny Booth less than I listened to the full record of Invent Animate. But on my listens of Johnny Booth, I feel like they are so like, and again, maybe similar to Invent Animate, I had a better vibe with Firsthand Accounts from Johnny Booth, their previous record.
Yeah.
Not that I think that record's better, but that record was more me. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, this is like everything I want out of a band like this. But Moments Elsewhere definitely stepped it up in the weird production, the samples they had throughout the whole record. Full Tilt, it's a fantastic single. I'm a huge fan of Bright Future, which is a great almost closer. of the record. Like there's just so many good moments in this record. And
Yeah.
I'm excited if this is how the band progresses. Like if every record they have as much of like a leap between records as they had with the First Hand Accounts in this record, they're gonna continue to just keep punching up the ladder.
Yeah. And I'll just get to my thoughts on this later. I don't want to talk about it too much on my end. All great points. I just want to give a quick shout out to Alec for getting me into this band. I had never listened to this band before. You were like, you should check this out and you should get Andrew Herman, vocalist, on the show. And within a week, I listened through the record 4 or 5 times, like every day on my commute, and was talking to Andrew like consistently, got him on the show, loved it, and is somebody that now I communicate with like somewhat regularly because him and I just like connected that well. And so, yeah, I'll talk about the album later on my end. I'll just put it at that. But shout out to Alex for getting me into this band and for getting me to talk to him to get him on the podcast and everything in between. So yeah, great record. My number 3 is one of the other, metal related, depending upon the song, but one of the last like not metal record on here for me. And it's Pulses. It Wasn't Supposed to Be Like This. This is a band that obviously I tried to make sure I wasn't biased on this just because I'm friends with them, right? Because other than my good friend who's a journalist, and actually you now with this one, this will be the 3rd time you're on here as well. But my friend Shabir Rizvi has been on my show now 4 times. Great journalist and activist with the political episodes. But other than that, Pulses has been on the most. I talked to Matt Burridge. I think he was like the 3rd episode or something. Talked to them when a single came out, and then we did a deep dive on their record. And the reason why this one's as high up for me as it is, even though I don't really listen to post-hardcore that much, there was another album that almost made it on here. That's a post-hardcore record that would be a shout-out, but shout-out to, I changed it last second, and I feel bad about it, but shout-out to Jake Alexin from The Burden, another post-hardcore band that almost made it on this. I just don't listen to post-hardcore as much as I do, like, heavier stuff.
The Burden record,
the reason why
super
Pulses
solid
is on here is
as well. Just
the Burden record Terminal, like
from your number 3, but
but the reason why I wanted to bring that up is I bring that up just because of pure like preference. I think it's one of the best records by far that's come out. If I had limited this to albums and not put the Callous Cowboys one on here, it probably would have been on this list. So shout out to Jake, shout out to that band, super fantastic record. But the reason why Pulses is as high as it is on here is because it's the most versatile record I've ever listened to in my entire goddamn life.
I actually, that's so funny. So that I have a shout out list, and that is the reason I shouted out is that I didn't give enough time this year. Another album I'll go back to, but that's exactly what I said. It is the most, every 2 songs, it's like, oh, this fulfills something. This fulfills someone. This fulfills a genre. This fulfills a genre. Like, they are so good at being all over the place. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'll let you carry on with your thought. It's your pick, right? But I just want to chime in and say I fucking agree, dude.
I prefer this. But yeah, like, so I'm looking at I have to look at the track list to just like kind of really give people who have not checked the album out. Although if you listen to this show, you have to have checked out this band at this point. But I look at things like they had the song. They had the song like "Run the Ghouls," which it goes from everything from more of like sort of I think it was Run the where like they have like everything that ebbs and flows from like a more like hip hop feel to a catchy chorus to like a turnstile breakdown to you've got the song called "Them Phones" on here, which is literally a ska post hardcore song. You've got Kupo as an example on this record. That is just a fucking metalcore song. You've got Honestly, which also features Sierra from with Sails Ahead, which is like an emo anthem, kind of like an emo somber anthem. You've got, I could go through on and on. You got Loafers with the White Sox, which features Nightlife, Bell, Gavin Cole, and it's like this really poppy sounding song with some post-hardcore elements in it. And the reason why this, again, like I kind of said it already, but like, if we were going for most original sounding music, this would be number 1.
Yeah.
Like this would be bar none, the most original, like maybe the most original record I've ever listened to. That's also cohesive, I should say, because I have heard very original records that feel like you had it was a compilation from different bands. You know what I mean? But just super unique band. Love the influences that they have on here. Um, love that it goes from everything to from like mid 2000s R&B to hip hop to metalcore to punk um to new metal. There's a song with a bunch of record scratches and some like cool
Yeah.
like kind of new metal beats with rapping on it. Obviously, Kevin, their drummer, is a great rapper. And it's just like one of the most eclectic things I've ever heard, and I think it's just up from here for the band too. So yeah, I'll stop rambling there. I've probably talked about it too much on several
I'm
episodes.
gonna ramble about them
but
for a
like,
quick second.
great album.
That I just a quick story about Pulses too, because I got into them like 4 years ago with Bouquet. But
Yeah.
like I was hiking in Virginia. This is like the most random band. I didn't even encounter the band, but that's like the where how I heard about the band was weird. Is I was hiking in Virginia, and there was a person on the top of the hill listening to music, and it was like a Swancore-esque band. And I go, "Oh, you listen to Wolf and Bear?" You know, because that's who I thought it was. And they go,
Yeah.
"No, it's Pulses." Just like that. Like I should have known. And I was like, "Oh, fucking cool, right?" And I ended up listening to the Bouquet. I listened to like What's Good. I think that was the first song I listened to, and I was like, "Oh, this band's fucking great." Which is so weird that years later we're in the group together and like.
Yeah.
Is it Andrew? I don't know.
That is the most random way to find out about a band ever.
Yeah, it's like, excuse me, don't you know who this band is? And it's not like they're like super fucking famous. They should be, but they do genre banding the way like a post-hardcore band, and I put that loosely, by the way, but like a post-hardcore band should be genre bending. It's a great pick for 3.
Yeah. It almost would have been higher, but I got to put some heavy shit on the top 2. That's just who I am. So, with that said, go to your top 2.
That's super funny because
number 2. I should say number 2. Number 2.
Number 2, yeah. Number 2, I didn't put heavy shit in my top 2, which is crazy, right? Number 2 for me is Why Would I Watch by Hot Mulligan. And I will say I didn't. I liked the band for a while. Like I was like, they are a good band. They have solid releases. Like I Won't Reach Out to You. That EP was really good, and I was like, oh, I vibe with this. And they had some songs off their last full length, which I am going to Google right now currently because I can't remember the last
You'll Be Fine
name.
record. Is that what you're talking
You'll
about?
Be Fine. Yeah, You'll Be Fine. That's what it was. Like the one Backyard on it, I was gonna say, or Equip Sunglasses. But like those records to me, I was like, oh, they have solid songs on them, but they're not like records that I want to listen to. Kind of remind me of I don't even know if I can mention this band anymore, but it kind of reminded me of like Tiny Moving Parts. That I loved songs, but I didn't love records for a long time.
They're a band you're never sure right now if you're still allowed to mention them or not. There was a little bit of a middle area of cancellations.
Yeah. They've recovered pretty well. I think they
because they handled it the best. I think
they handled it great. Yeah, I think it almost shout out to Tiny Moving Parts for handling allegations in like appropriate way, right?
We don't have to give it to them, but we kind of just did.
Yeah. I mean, it's they've recovered well. I think they did the right thing. I'm not saying the situation's cool, but anyways, Why Would I Watch? Hot Mulligan record, front to back to me is solid. It has everything I want in that kind of angsty, and they have such a weird vibe that I can't explain. It's like angsty, but I also live in like the 1940s for some reason. Like it's like I'm transported to like some weird like nuclear family. I'm part of a nuclear family back in like the 1940s and 50s or 60s, and I am really angsty. But it's also very modern production, Like their lyrical content kind of feels that way. But just the more I listen to it, the more I like it. And I think that's kind of the staple of this record is I gave it a once over. I said, hey, this record's like good. And I was like, oh, what's that third song in the track that I really liked? And then it's like, what's that sixth song in the track that I really like? And what's that eighth song? Oh, what's their closer song that I really like? Every time I went back to it, I was like, oh, I'm re-liking songs that like I'm finding the full record that, in scope is what I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Which is again why it's in the top 5 or why it's in the top 3 even.
This is a record. I won't talk too much on it because I need to check. I'll give it a fair go because you're putting this high. I usually agree with you on music stuff for the most part. Hot Mulligan was a band that I'll be honest, like I never understood why so many people like them. I'm not hating on the kind of music. I think they write really solid songs. I just remember when You'll Be Fine came out and people were astounded by the record.
Yeah, right.
And again, like I said earlier, this sort of genre, a little bit of backstory. I used to be heavily invested in this kind of music, like Tiny Moving Parts, Hot Mulligan. But the reason why was because I was so into Brand New. And that's the one band that, yeah, well, rest in piss, I guess. But but like, and when that whole thing happened, where all that stuff came out about them, and it was confirmed, and all this kind of stuff, and like, I'm not somebody. I also, to be fair, like, I never shit on what other people listen to, so like, I don't care if somebody else listens to it. I think that people, you could have the conversation, but I have more important things to put that energy into, with politics or world issues or inequality. I don't care if you're listening to a band that I wouldn't listen to personally anymore. But
can you imagine? Can you imagine if you're like, I interrupt my segment on Gaza to shit in this guy's music taste?
Yeah,
like
exactly. That's kind of where my perspective is on all this stuff anymore. If someone asks my opinion, I'll give it, but like, it's so moot. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't. You're gonna do it anyway. Why are we gonna argue about it? But for me personally, it kind of broke my brain on this genre. I really like. That's why I went so into like heavy political music and hardcore music that I'd already liked. But to that, I got a little jaded on like the emo post-hardcore kind of stuff, and then there would be other allegations of these other like lesser known bands, and I was like, this whole fucking thing feels gross, and I'm just kind of gonna leave it. That being said, there's a few bands that have kind of opened my mind to it again recently this year, and I just hadn't checked out this record from this band. It's also in the same light. A few of them are my shout outs for after this, but I'm going to check this out because I've heard great things about it. I heard it was better than the 2020 record. I'm less jaded about the genre now. So now that you've said it at your number 2, I'm definitely gonna give it a fair shake, and I'll listen to it twice, even if the first time I'm not like completely on board. So
I think it's leagues better than You'll Be Fine as an album.
Okay.
Yeah, I was also in the same boat as you. Just so you know that when I listened to You'll Be Fine, I was like, I don't really get the hype. Like, I get it. There's some songs on here that remind me of like when I loved this genre. This album kind of re-solidifies it. Just throwing it out there.
Well, so I was gonna say, you put it at your number 2, and you're another guy that's into heavy music, so I'll take your word for it, and I'll check it out. Number 2 for me is, and I thought this maybe wouldn't be on your list, and I'll be interested to know why, but is Silent Planet, Super Bloom.
Yeah.
This record is my second favorite Silent Planet record of all time. I was at first with the hype on it because I was so stoked that they were getting as big as they were from it comparatively to the past, saying it was my favorite record of theirs. Don't really overall feel that way. I still think When the End Began is the best record they've made, and I hope they beat it someday. But this one to me was great because they took a big, creative gamble. They went a lot less technical. They added in a lot of elements they've never done before, and it all really worked for me. The lyrics, as always, were super on point. The heavy aspects of it were still there. And it does have some of the best songs they've ever made on it. It just doesn't beat a different record of theirs for me. And as people know that have listened to this, like one of my favorite bands of all time, one of the bands that like I deep dive the lyrics to no end. Obviously I've had Garrett on the show and talked to him here and there, but like, you know, there's just something about some of the songs on this record that I just don't think anybody else is making stuff like this that well. So that's why I really like this one. I'd be interested because I would assume this isn't your number one. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm burying the lead here,
No.
but what are your opinions on this record? Because since it's not on here, I kind of want to put you in a seat for a second.
I'll give you my opinion is that I didn't listen to it. And
oh
so
my God, no way.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing about Silent Planet, and I think the band is. I mean, I listened to singles. I didn't listen to it all the way through. I listened, when they released Antimatter, I listened to it 1,000 times, like every other guy who loves that band did.
Yeah.
Silent Planet to me is a band that is full of just sleeper albums for me. Like they're never my top albums of the year ever, right? And then 2 years, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years later, I'll listen to the album and I go, oh man, I should have liked this album so much more. Like when it was released, you know? Like for example, 2020 is when I got into The Night God Slept. Like I was like,
it's but I think you would have gotten the remade version of it, which would have helped.
I did,
because the remade version is a lot better.
Right, it was the Redux for sure, and maybe that was 21. I can't remember where they did that one, but like I am just looking through their discography right now. Like everything with sound, I've listened to all the way through, I think once, and they're all records.
It's not your thing.
I'll see them live any day of the week. I'll be stoked to see them live, and I think that I'm at the stage of life now where if I see, shout out to somebody in the group. I saw Silverstein last week, for their this Wind Shifts tour, and somebody looked at me.
You don't have to rub it in.
Sorry, but they were like I didn't, and I know 80% of that album, right? And I was in the crowd, and somebody looks at me and they go, "You're a fucking fake fan," because like I didn't know the lyrics to a song. I was like, "Fuck you, dude!" Like fuck you. No, it was in jest. Anyways, but like I like going to shows now, not knowing the entire album front to back. Like there's this weird expectation that if I'm like, okay, hey, I know half the set list, or I know 4 songs, or I know whatever. I going in because it makes me, just like Left to Suffer did, it makes me be like, oh, this show killed, and I had zero expectation of what it was going to be. And that's how I want to witness Silent Planet, I think, for the first time. Is seeing them live and going, oh yeah, okay, this gets me into them now.
I also, I mean, I think it's, I mean, isn't that what shows used to be for, was finding new bands,
right?
Or getting more into bands? Like the idea that I know that you were saying the person's, but like people really do feel like, I don't know, sometimes it's like, no, I'm going to go check out a band live. That's like what I'm here for. And if I like it, I'll go check out the music. And if I don't, maybe I won't, like, not that complicated. But this was actually my number one for up until this morning.
I'm just gonna guess what
Silent Planet Super Blue.
Right?
Yeah, but we'll get to your number one first. But great record. Again, not even my favorite Silent Planet record of all time, but a fantastic record. Let's go ahead and get to your number one. I'm really interested to hear what it is.
I'll get around to Super Bloom in 2025. Is my guess, or when I see them on tour.
We've documented you're a late bloomer for the Super Bloom. There we go.
Yeah, a late Super Bloomer, as they say.
Yeah. What's your number one, man?
Number one. Actually, can we go through some shout outs first? If you have any shout outs.
Yeah, why don't we do the shout outs first before the number one? Let's do that. You go ahead and do some of yours here.
I got like a listicle of them, so I won't take too long on them. But there's
who cares?
Plenty.
Do as many as you want here.
In probably if we did a top 20 list instead of a top 10, I would shout out Hollow Front for Fear of Letting Go. If you're not into the band, they're hometown.
Great.
I'm not gonna say
band.
Homies, like I'm good friends with them, but like hometown people who have stuck through thick and thin. There's honestly no reason they should still be a band, with us as much like bullshit as they went through, and they're still making music. Fear of Letting Go is a solid record, especially for all the stuff they had to deal with throughout the last couple of years of their career. And songs like Over the Cradle remind me why I like that band so much. Pulses, It Wasn't Supposed to Be Like This, and I'll be brief about that one. I think that record is so versatile. I just didn't give it enough time to sit with to say, hey, this is in my top 10. Super cool band, though. They've always surprised me with every release.
Yeah.
And then my last three, the album Meant Well by Parting Ways. It would have been number one pop punk album of the year if it was released this year, but it wasn't. It was released in like 2019 or 2020 or something like that. The dude's in Real Friends now. He's like the vocalist of Real Friends. That record, solid through and through. And then Sweet Pill. Do yourself a favor after this podcast and listen to Sweet Pill. They are this like
I will. I've never heard of them.
Indie mathcore female-led vocalist band. I'm seeing them live. I think they're coming through my hometown in May. Just phenomenal. Where the Heart is their record they released, I think, last year.
Yeah, decent sized band too.
Yeah,
looks like
they're so underrated and so under the radar. And I think that if they had a super, super, super good management team or something, like I can't talk shit about their management team they have now, but if they had like the God management team, the ones that get everybody on the tours and the really high profile tours, they would blow up in a second. They're amazing.
Yeah, I bet I'll be able to catch them in Chicago. It looks like at least their numbers on various platforms, they have a huge following in Chicago too. So I should check out and see
check them
town next.
I think it's probably the same. I'm guessing we're looking at the same tour too, because I'm sure they're hitting Chicago either before or after my date, the day before, the day after.
Right.
And the last two bands I'll shout out who didn't make a record this year, but if they made a record, it'd probably be my top 10. The band Throne, THROWN.
Yes. So good, man.
And they're phenomenal, but they make the same song every song. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I think they're not versatile at all. You know the formula of what's gonna make a good Throne song, right? But every time they do it, I'm like, oh, I love this song though. Guilt was probably my favorite single
I
of
didn't
the
get
year.
into them. So for me, On the Verge, I was going to shout out this band too, so I'll do it right now.
On the Verge is great.
On the Verge, which I think is the last song they put out this year. I could be wrong. It is.
It's the last one. Yeah.
They something about that song scratches like my lizard brain, where I just I will play it twice every time I hear it. Well, now every single song they have is like under 2.5 minutes long, I think, but like that song, I don't know, like there's something about it that I just I could, and it's like the same riff either through like a sort of like hip hop, I think people call it funk, I don't know, but hip hop like beat to like a really heavy detuned breakdown, and then there's just a little bit of polyrhythms thrown in somewhere, triplets or whatever. But like something about that band just like scratches my, and they're from the business side for both of us, the marketing this band was able to do on Spotify to get where they are is incredible. You end an album, you end a metal album of any kind, the next song that comes on is Throne. Like the next song is always Throne. And that's how I got into them
too.
The marketing
I think Dwell was always coming on after songs. I was like, damn, this band's cool. And you always know, like, again, they're formulaic, and I don't say that in like slamming the band at all, but I know from listening to Throne songs,
I think that's what they're going for. Yeah, there's
always going to be a part where the music cuts out. They're going to have like a heavy like one-liner or two-liner, and it's just going to slam. And that's what I want.
Yep.
I want break room. I want music that I'm gonna go to a break room tomorrow and like chuck my old laptop or like something like that. Like they smash shit all day.
Yep.
And lyrically they're super good too. I mean, a little depressing, but lyrically they're really good too. So
surprisingly for that kind of music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I'm used to sort of the Amir style or God forbid,
Right.
Attila style lyrics for like a band like that, and it's not. You look them up, and they're actually very interesting. Very depressing, but very interesting. Yeah, just
Yeah.
like some. It sounds like if like a guy's just sitting in his room, like having a mental breakdown, but like in a articulate way.
And that'll
Like,
that'll drag me to my last band I'm going to shout out, who, if they made a record this year, and they're in a very similar vein for Throne, I guess, like they're kind of in the same bucket. Downswing. If you haven't listened to Downswing,
I haven't. I'm gonna
their
save them
singles
right
this
now.
year were great. No Solution was one of my favorite singles this year for sure. They're this drop C hardcore heavy hitter band. I can't remember what album it was. I think it came out, and I'm gonna look it up while I'm talking about it. It has the song "Stressed Out" on it, or maybe "Stressed Out" was just a single. Who knows, right? Um,
I'm looking here.
Maybe that was the whole album. Maybe the album was called "Stressed Out." I don't know. I don't know enough about the band apparently, but super good.
That's why it's a
I'm,
shout
I'm
out.
gonna I'm
Yeah.
gonna rep them. Yeah, that's why it's a shout out, right? Because I don't know enough about them yet. Just crazy good band. I highly suggest listening to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saved them already and saved that No Solution song. I'm going to check it out. Great shout outs. The last ones for me, I'll do mine real quick here. They're almost all people that have been on the podcast, but that's kind of the point of this show for me. That's what I've
Right.
liked the most about it. So real quick, this band will probably be on my album of the year list this upcoming year because I know that they just got back the masters of their full length album with sales ahead. They put out their most recent song, Darting Eyes. Really, like, always really thought the band was pretty good, pretty great. Heard about them from Pulses, saw them live. Really great band, really great kind of what I would call like prog post-hardcore. But then this newest song is like the biggest step up for them, and if that's like the insinuation of what the record's going to be like, it's going to be in my top 10 next year.
Darting Eyes is I'm just gonna throw in just a thing in the hat here. Is one of the catchiest singles I think I listened to this year. I don't know what's up with the I say what's up with, like it's a bad thing, it's not. There's like this Sierra has this weird fucking throat singing she does in the chorus where like you can almost hear
like
the
kind of like
strain
gritty.
on the throat.
Yeah,
and I can't do it.
Yeah.
If I try doing it, it's gonna be laughable. But
I would cough. Yeah.
I would cough a lot. I've been drinking some Rumple too. So, but the way that whole song is structured is great. That is a wonderful single this year, and it's been on repeat for sure.
Next one would be Nate Bergman, who is the 6th or 7th person on this podcast, maybe 8th, I don't remember. I should have looked that up before I said this stuff. But Nate, for people who don't know, was the singer of the band Lion Eyes, and has started his solo career with it in the past. I think he put out a record in last year, maybe it was the year before, that was really good. But he put out, he's kind of a singer-songwriter guy that tours with bands like LS Dunes and My Chemical Romance.
Sure.
So very interesting, kind of like he could also tour with country artists in a way if he wanted to. Just very, very kind of like rock music, singer-songwriter rock music. And he put out a song this year called War on the Working Class that, the podcast goes political a lot. I've had like more political episodes lately with everything going on than I have in quite some time. Nate's able to do songs like this in a way that like connects to people regardless of sort of political affiliation, but that are just like everyday people, but does it in a way that is like a lot better than that like bullshit Oliver Anthony song that got really big that had terrible lyrics and was cringeworthy as fuck that was played at the Republican National Convention and stuff. Nate is the version of singer-songwriter that actually understands those issues. You can tell he thinks about it a lot with the lyrical content he puts out, and yet like if you didn't give a shit about like social political issues, you would hear the song and be like, God, this guy's got pipes and this is stuck in my head. So Nate Bergman, shout out. Fantastic singer-songwriter, my favorite singer-songwriter that I found over the last several years. And Shelby, who helped me book him, shout out to Shelby if she hears this. She's the one who got me into him and got him on the show, so he was awesome. I have 3 other ones. Already said one of them, The Burden Terminal, post-hardcore record, absolutely fantastic. It's like a throwback to classic Under Oath and Silverstein and all that with like modern production. Really interesting song structures, really catchy, and also really brutal at times. Fantastic record. One that I added recently because they're one of the last music episodes I've done is the Magwas out of Pennsylvania, an emo rock band that is really catchy. They kind of delve into a little bit of heavier stuff on a few of their songs and have really like branched out with their latest record, Settled. Super good band that I think is going to make waves. They're signed to an interesting record label that's had bands like Texas in July and August Burns Red on it in the past in Pennsylvania. And just like a really, really interesting band that their singer's good, but in a very unique way. They're very business minded and business savvy, but also very into the music aspect of things. And I just think they're probably going to be a band that people see blow up in the next couple of years. The last band that I'm shouting out that would be on this top 10 if the record came out in 2023, even though it's interesting they put the record out in 2022, but like people noticed it in 2023. It's a band out of New York, emo pop punk band that that got me back into emo music. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Career Day. Very reminiscent of Taking Back Sunday, brand new style sound of the mid 2000s. But what's interesting is most of the record, not all of the record, but most of the record is written about, the perspective of somebody who is Filipino American. Their singer Desmond, who's also worked for the NAACP, is an activist for Filipino independence, all this kind of stuff. He writes about a lot of those kinds of things, or like being, people trying to treat you as like the token good one, and like all these different kinds of things, these very serious issues. In a context of sounding like Taking Back Sunday almost, or he cites Motion City Soundtrack as like his number one influence.
Oh, okay.
And so after talking with him and having this big conversation with him, it got me back into the genre because I was just sort of disillusioned with it. And so this record that they put out, Where We've Always Been, it's definitely a record people should check out. Whether or not you're politically inclined or whether or not you're into emo music, it's super good. All that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. After all of that, let's get to your number one. What's your number one record?
I could go on for. We could have another hour of this podcast of me just talking about this record. Suicide and Sunshine by Trophy Eyes is my top record. I didn't even
know they put out a record this year.
It is.
What?
I think it's next level. I didn't listen really hardcore to American Dream. I know Josh Lowe, who's another person in our group, me and him have talked back and forth about it, about how he thinks American Dream is better. I think that Suicide and Sunshine is leagues better, but I think it's what you got into first. The whole record is grossly sad. It's grossly sad, very somewhat hopeful, and phenomenal record front to back. Very sad record. Has a little bit of like a hopeful element to it, contrasting, the Suicide Sunshine, contrasting views.
Yeah.
I think for me, I had a pretty crazy year, as far as like emotional swings, and I moved 5 times this year. If you can believe that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I wasn't really in a place for longer than 3 months, maybe 4. I think 4 months is my longest stretch of like actually being at one place. So, it's been kind of a downer year. So naturally I'm going to gravitate towards the album that's kind of like a downer album, but I can't give you a song that I don't like on this record. And there's such a variety of songs on this record. The front to back flows incredibly well. Like each song kind of flows into each other. The production elements of some of the vocals, some of the way they produce the vocals, and not only like the soundscape of the vocal itself, but like where it's positioned in your ear and how it travels is super cool. Like they took their time with this. And I can't tell you if the front half or the back half is better. And that's
good sign.
Good sign of a good record.
Yeah. Trophy Eyes is a band that I was into a while ago and have not really kept up with. I think the last record I really checked out from them would have been Chemical Miracle in 2016.
And that's a weird thing too, because they're not like a top band for me either. Like I loved Men Move On when I first listened to it. It hit that kind of like hard punk vibe that I wanted. And then Chemical Miracle kind of did a 180 on it a little bit, where they kind of toned it back a lot. And I said, oh, I think I'm falling off this band. Like it's good, but it's not what I wanted. And I think now that I'm a little bit more mature and older, and I've liked more of that genre as I've aged, this record has just spoken to me on so many levels. It's just, I think it's a must listen for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out again today. It's getting added to the list. I think I have 3 albums now that I have to listen to today. But yeah, no, that's great. Great. I always remember them being fantastic. I just kind of fell off from them, so I'll make sure to check that out. Check that out this time. Thanks for bringing that one. It sounds like it's definitely has grounds for being your favorite record.
Not about the record at all. But I said this when I bought this Rumple. This is why I want to buy a pint too, by the way. Not that I don't want the 5th Rumple, because I'll definitely drink it throughout the year, next year. Do you have it where the cap doesn't fucking thread back? It always leaks every single time. I put it in the freezer and it'll leak. But like I have now broken my cap to the point where I can just keep spinning it over and over and over. It just doesn't.
I hate when that happens. That's the worst.
And it happens every single time. Rumple, you're so tasty, but your manufacturers are fucking. They suck.
Yeah.
Okay?
What is with this thin shit? What is this?
Can't get out of here
with a pristine alcohol here. Yeah. No, that's actually staying in.
Pristine liquor. Hate whatever's going on with this cap. Okay.
My number 1, which is it's kind of been given away at this point, is Johnny Booth. Moments Elsewhere. Here we go, man. Cheers. So again, I already gave the shout out to Alec. I'm not going to give him any more credit, but this record, from pretty much the moment I checked out the band, and honestly, like I have not even listened to a whole lot of the rest of their discography. I've listened to Firsthand Accounts. I haven't listened, and Storyteller actually, but I didn't listen. I guess I didn't really just listen to Connections, their 2012 record,
or like Bronze Age or anything like that.
Yeah. But the reason behind that is because when I talked to Andrew, he was like, this really does feel like a new era for us with this record more than anything. This is what we want to do going forward. Him and I did a deep dive on some of these songs, and just, I don't know, like it's one of those things. It's kind of like what I would attribute to with like when the end began with Silent Planet for me, where like when you hear about a band and then you listen to their newest album at the time, that was what that was for me in 2019 for Silent Planet. With this one, it was like, I know that for me, nothing else from this band is going to add up to this. Like, this is just such a good record. It's my favorite. Like, I put it above a Silent Planet record for me. And for anybody that knows me, Silent Planet is one of my favorite bands of all time. And the reason why I did is because every single song on this record is different. It's high quality. It also feels DIY at the same time. Like you mentioned, Full Tilt, which was, the big single off of this that really got them a lot more traction over the years. Recently, after so many years of being a band together, I think he said they've been in a band since the late 2000s. Something about that song, something about the record, I don't know. It's like, it just speaks to me in a way that, like, I don't know that a record last year or the year before did. It's just really encapsulating of like what I want to hear from music. And also there's like a little bit of a new metal vibe in it, like a little bit of a, grungier side to it. The singing isn't pretty. Like it does the trick and it sounds good, but it's all a little rough around the edges, which I miss about this, about a lot of bands in this genre. You know what I mean? And, a big shout out to this record for me that is not, I don't think it was a single, but again, I listened to the record after it was already out, was Modern Dialogue. It's actually the one that Andrew picked to play at the end of the episode that
that's
did
the
together.
Closer too, isn't it? It's the closer.
Yep, it's the closer.
Yeah.
And a big part of it was, that the song really, like, if you read the lyrics to it, it's like how I feel about a lot of things in the world. Like, and not just like from a like, oh, I'm a left wing, whatever. It's more of like how people communicate together, and like how much. And this is something I talked about with Garrett Russell too, but just like how much communication breakdown is like so many of the problems people have, and how it's kind of gotten worse and worse as years have gone on. And I just really like, I don't know, something about that song. That's my favorite song on the record. It's the closer, which is pretty cool. But overall, just like, I would maybe go to venture my favorite album of the past 5 years. Like it's that good, you know?
It's it's so solid. And I one of my goals this year is to do a run of watching them. Like I'd love to catch them, especially they have the Silent Planet tour. Shout out to their tour, Silent Planet tour, Johnny Booth, Thornhill.
Jesus, yeah.
I don't know who the last person on that list was.
Yeah, with Thornhill, which is
yeah.
Another great band. Like
that tour is gonna be so sick, and I might just try to. Are you drinking a PBR with the Rumple? That's fucking crazy. Anyways, you're like, and boy breakfast. Yeah. So
that's right.
I would love to see that tour like a couple of times. Like I'd love to go to specific dates and just kind of travel. And if I can take their pictures, fucking sick. But if not, like I would just enjoy every time I see them.
Yeah. Again, I just think it's, there's something about that. And just, again, I don't mean to make like a record about a bit more than just the record. I think on its own, it's my favorite. But just the fact that this band is so independent, so like on, so grinding and so like, I don't know, their own thing. Like they're, and Silent Planet is now too. They're actually going full independent. But there's something about that to me that speaks to me that I'm like, and it like showcases itself in the music. So that's what I love about it. I'll stop rambling there on this, but yeah, so that's my number one. Let's go through each one of our lists one more time at the end here, and then we'll wrap up. So go ahead and just say if you have do you still have your list?
Yeah, I do.
Just go ahead and just rail them off. We don't need to say any more comments on all these. We've talked at pretty good length on them, but just kind of rail them off for me, starting at number 10.
Sure. In ascending order, we have Poppy, Zig. We have at number 9, we have Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. I don't know if you should list the band before the title. I don't know how that works properly, but we're just gonna go with that.
I was told by Shane told that it's band name first, then album. That's how.
Oh, right. Okay, so I'm doing it right. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's all I care about.
Yeah.
Make sure that he doesn't fucking yell at me. So we got at number 8, No Home, Hell is All Around Us. Number 7, Movements, Ruckus. Number 6 is Currents, The Death We Seek. Number 5 is Left to Suffer, Feral. Number 4 is Invent Animate, Heavener. Number 3, Johnny Booth, Moments Elsewhere. Number 2 is Hot Mulligan, Why Would I Watch? And number 1 is Trophy Eyes with Suicide and Silence. Or Suicide and Sunshine. Suicide and Silence is a totally different vibe. Suicide and Sunshine.
That's a different band. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Suicide and
Sunshine.
Silence.
It's always good to flub on the number 1. Great job.
Yeah, exactly. Just flub it. Yeah. Suicide and Sunshine, Trophy Eyes. Check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. For me, number 10, Guardrail, Content. I should have checked in with him on what that was. Number 9, Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. Number 8, Calva Louise, Over the Threshold. Number 7, Silosis, Sign of Things to Come. Number 6, the Cal Style Boys. God smiles upon the Cal Style Boys, which is true. Number 5, Dying Wish, Symptoms of Survival. Number 4, Invent Animate, Heavener. Number 3, Pulses, It Wasn't Supposed to Be Like This. Number 2, Silent Planet, Super Bloom. And number 1, best record of the year, officially, objectively, everyone else is wrong. Johnny Booth, Moments Elsewhere. I got to do that at the end of my show.
Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, my top 3 could have been juggled. Like I think about that. Like,
same here. I kind of said that with Johnny Booth and Silent Planet, but to be clear, the Pulses one could have been number 1. Like I almost put it there and kind of put Booth second and Silent Planet third, but I was like, which one have I listened to the most this year? That made the decision.
That one.
You know what I mean? Like it was that simple.
Here's a left field question that you may or may not want to just keep in recording, but what would you say out of bands that have made singles this year? I know we already talked about like Throne and stuff like that too. That you're like, okay, hey, if they make a record next year, that might be my number one next year. What do you predict? What do you predict is going to be in your top? Let's say like top 3.
There's a few, but I'll whittle it down to one. Here we go. Projections for next year. I am gonna honestly say I think what I am and is so many things are up in the air with bands. There's 2 bands that I am most anticipating for records from next year. The first one is, and I said it earlier with one of the shout outs, is with Sales Ahead.
Yeah.
I think they're a band that has put out great music, and they even said this themselves with the Darting Eyes episode that I did with them, that this record this record is a lot more DIY produced. It's mixed by somebody else, but like their guitarist Joe produced it all. They did it all like in-house. And they feel like it's the first time it sounds the way that they feel like they want to sound. And so with that in mind, with how much of a step up I think this latest single is, I think that record's going to at least be top 5 for me. The other one, and this is going to be conventional as hell, but the number one for next year after the single they put out this month is Architects with Seeing Red.
Yeah.
I think they're going to put out a new record next year. I think a lot of people are going to hate it because they've hated the last 3 records and they like to. It's the metalcore discourse that like hurts my brain. But I think the last 2 records have been sort of growing pains for them, despite me really liking the records. I think they're a bit of growing pains for the band, and I think the next Architects record is going to be, while a lot of like OG fans are always going to hate that it's not, all our gods have abandoned us or whatever. Maybe Holy Hell and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's going to be the best Architects record is going to come out in 2024. So those are my 2. I'm going to say with Sales Ahead, and I'm going to say on a big scale, Architects.
I'm not going to say that's a bold statement. I mean, you've been around, you've been kicking the can around long enough to know that like bands will release this like heavy fucking single and have this really weak album, right? So I mean,
to be fair, I'm not saying it's going to be a heavy record. I actually don't think it's going to be a heavy record.
And when I say weak,
I think it's going to be a really good record.
I don't necessarily mean that the album itself has like not heavy songs. I mean like the album is just weak, right? They released Everybody Remembers You're Welcome by A Day to Remember, right? Everybody remembers that record. For better for worse.
Okay, but we do not need to compare. Now, here's we're going long here, but people could listen to however long they want of this. But the thing that I'm interested in for next year is, I think this is going to be my prediction for bad record, and I hope I'm wrong, is with Bring Me the Horizon kicking Jordan Fish.
Oh,
not kicking, I should say, having Jordan Fish leave the band, which some people are like applauding. The next music is gonna be terrible.
Why?
Like it's gonna be really bad. Like I don't think it's gonna be good.
I don't think it's gonna be bad, but I don't think it's gonna be nearly the like. Here's the thing. I think he's had a hand in most of their stuff, and I think the stuff moving forward, he probably had a slight hand in. He might get credited with still, even though he's not in the band, right? I think we might see like a next release by them that's good, but then I think they're in a couple of years going to start like not being as intricately good.
Well, because people have been bagging on Jordan Fish a bit that are like into the heavier Bring Me the Horizon stuff for like changing the band, and it's like, but he is the reason why Sempiternal was good. Like, and he's the reason why That's the Spirit was good, writer. And he's the reason. Yeah. And I like a lot of the newer Bring Me the Horizon music. I think it's better than some of the older stuff. Like, I think there's hits and misses, but like, if you think that the band's gonna be better because like the guy that like gave the band its second coming is out of the band, you're out of your goddamn mind.
And here's I am a very like I'll die on the hill that Sempiternal was an amazing record. I think There Is a Hell was my personal favorite Bring Me the Horizon record. This before he was in the band, but
hot take.
I don't think that they could have made that album twice. Like I think Sempiternal has so much more of a value of, hey, we can kind of like reorganize these songs, like the vibe of these songs to make a different record, and it will work. If you try to make There's a Hell another time, it wouldn't work. That was just a great one-off. But I will segment
agreed.
back to Architects saying, hot take, Architects making their best record to date. Maybe I'll be so happy if they do, and you'll be the first one that I message. I'll say you told me so. Yeah, I'll be
I
like,
do feel
you
so.
got it.
With them, like they're this latest record, I forget what it's called because they've put out so many, but the one before that had like animals and Discourse is Dead and all that on it. I thought that record was pretty good. I thought it was a little long because it was like 14 tracks, but I thought it was pretty good. I actually really liked it. This latest one they put out, I think there was good songs, there's bad songs on it, and it really felt like more of a Growing Pains record. Now, of course, they don't have Josh Middleton anymore either, so
Right.
I really could be saying the same thing about them that I could be saying about Bring the Horizon now that we're talking about this. But I'm going to stay hopeful. I think they're going to put out a good record. I shouldn't have said best. I might edit that out for my own sanity here.
Just cut
but
it.
I
It's
think
just
it'll
noise.
be. I think, cut that. Get it out of here. No, I'm going to leave it because I'm lazy. But yeah. but the. I think we're going to see a good record from them next year. That's my prediction, is that really it's going to be a really good record from them. But I'm going to predict that top 5 records for me next year, one of them is going to be the With Sales Ahead record. That's what I'm leaving with.
That's fair. I would love to see what Sales Ahead does, and I'm not gonna pretend to be like a Sales Ahead stan where like I know all their back catalog.
Yeah.
But if anything is like the Darting Eyes single, then I'm in it. I'm gonna listen to it. It'll be probably in my top 20 at least. I would assume if it's anything like Darting Eyes. The band that I'm looking at the most, and maybe I'm a little generic. Maybe it's a little generic, but The Plot and You, their last 3 singles.
No, that's not generic. Yeah. That's gonna be a good record. Yeah.
Talk about a fucking band that has made a total, I shouldn't say total 180, but it's a mostly 180 change to their sound. And it has, just like Bring Me the Horizon, it has done the band leaps and bounds of not only popularity, but of just like the soundscape of their records are just phenomenal. Like, it's so weird to listen to Wife Beater. Can you say that out loud? It's so weird to listen to Wife Beater and then listen to Disposable Fix or Swan Song or even like Happiness and Self Destruction, which I feel like is like kind of that weird in between magnum opus of the band of like that
it's
transition
a Growing
album
Pains record.
But it has some of the greatest songs they've done. I firmly believe that if these singles are any indication of what the band is going to do, it's just going to be a maybe my album of the year. Who knows?
I kind of honestly, I would have thrown that in there as well, because I kind of forgot that they would probably be putting out a record next year. But I agree. I think all the things you just said there are very valid. I think that band really can't do any wrong. I think Landon is maybe one of the best songwriters of the whole generation. And even like I said, Happiness and Self Destruction does feel a bit of a Growing Pains record, like in hindsight, but it's like one that still was like a 7.5 out of 10. It's still a very good record.
Easily an 8 out of 10 for me, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think those 3 bands we're going to keep a lookout on. I'm a little more skeptical on Architects, but I think for sure Plot and You puts out a great record for sure. With Sales Ahead puts out a great record that really puts them up the next level. And we'll see. There's a lot of things that are projected for next year. I just forget all of them. But the one that I'm going to call is not going to be good is Bring Me the Horizon. But we'll see. I hope I'm proven wrong.
So I'll say that I'm just trying to get this over 2 hours, I guess. I'm like, let's make the editing really hard for you later.
Fantastic, awesome.
You're welcome, dude. You're welcome. Don't worry about it. I've had a couple shots of Rumple, and now we're in. There's a band that I don't want to like at all. In fact, I don't like them, but I do like them. Their last single is actually extremely catchy. Is I See Stars.
All right,
I don't
that's
know.
it for the show. We're done.
Yeah.
All right, no.
Yeah, all right, we're clocking out. And dude, there is. Yeah, I've seen that band a million times live. I've never really loved them at all, and I don't think they're gonna make like the next gen phenomenal record. Like that's not what I'm positioning. But Damage Done as a single is such a weirdly good single. There's it's kind of like I don't know if you're a fan, and this is a really bad equivalency because one band's way better than this band, but I don't know if you listen to like a Capstan album where
Yes.
you go nothing about the guitar tone and the production and the way they did these like vocals like really like weird like off pitch should be good, but it is. But I love it. You know, if we're looking at like Separate by Capstan, there's a couple of songs in there that I'm just like, I don't know why I love this so much, but I'm in love with it. And I hate to say that about an Icy Star song, but Damage Done was that sleeper single of the year. We're cutting all of this, by the way. I'm just gonna.
I'm leaving it in there. You gotta.
And I hate to say it. I hate to say it because I've been such a hardcore. Like I don't like this band at all. There's something about it that I think has some staying power, but I don't think the record they make will. That's my prediction. That's my other prediction.
Well, you can let me know because I'm not checking it out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
No, it's one band that I'll totally hate on until the day I die. But
that's okay.
I hope they hear this. Come on the show. But all right, Alec, thanks for doing this with me. I will be editing several minutes out of this, and that is
for
fine.
Sure.
Thanks for doing this with me. And before we go,
how can we not do 5 Rumple shots in 2 hours? You know?
Yeah, we got to do it. I got a lot of cleaning to do after this. I got to have something to do. All right.
Yeah. Right.
So for this, this will probably be the last episode I think that comes out before 2024. So cheers for that, and we'll end it here with a little clink. All right.
To the new year, buddy.
All right. There we go.